Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Sanctuary Podcast. I'm here again with my friend Rob. I'm Kevin, and we're going to explore some deeper level conversations around community. So this is the second part two of at least a two-part mini-series on We Get Close, one of our core values, and we're starting a series, or we've been in the middle of a series called We Get Closer. We've now 3 messages into it, and continuing to go, talking about how do we build community. So your message a few weeks ago on Palm Sunday was community builders and community destroyers. So part 1, we did an overview of the series and really dove into the points of community builders. Of the me monster is the community destroyer.
Yep.
Community builder is compassionate listening. So we're going to continue and just dive right in again, assuming you've listened to part 1. If you haven't, go back and listen to it. This will make much more sense. So why don't we just name point number 2, and we're going to dive deeper into point number 3 and 4 if we can right now.
Point number 2 was commitment to offense versus commitment to grace. The reason why we're not going to expand on that, we are filming this Wednesday, April 7th, this Sunday, April 11th, we're going to talk about that a bit more, and just the idea of forgiveness, principles of forgiveness, and principalities of unforgiveness that we need to come against.
Ooh, that was weird. That was awesome.
Bro!
I'm looking forward to it.
I know, because here's the thing. We are not just building God's kingdom, we are destroying the enemies on the way.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
All right.
We're going for the total dub here. Like we don't just win by a little, we win big. So
which also
gives
purpose to what we're doing now. We're not just saying how do we have a nice community.
I know.
How do we actually destroy the kingdom of darkness who's looking to destroy heart connection at every turn?
Yeah.
Where God is building a kingdom community, which is awesome.
So devil, get that. We're coming for your throat.
I thought you were going to say we're not talking about it today because we're afraid to offend somebody. So we're just going to skip it completely.
No, not at all.
Okay, so point number 3 in building healthy community.
3 was unreliability versus honoring our word. Yes, and I'm trying to remember because I was from Colossians 3:14, which the exact verse is escaping my mind right now, but I know that it had to do with honoring our word, being reliable, being dependable. You can't build community if you don't show up. Like, I think that's a really simple one. Like, how are you going to get closer to someone that's not even there?
We get close from afar. No,
right.
You have to do it up close. To get close, you got to get close. Wow, that was profound.
Yeah, and
that was a Yoda-ism right there.
Get close, you must. I can't.
That's good. Caffeine kicking in. So where are we again? Building a fence. No, we're destroying the fence. That's good. No, that was just a joke. So here we are, honoring our word, being versus being unreliable. This is good. Hey, we also a core value is we have fun. So we're having fun. Okay. Seriousness. No. So let's talk about that. Keeping your word.
Keeping your word.
Is that a community builder? Or let's talk about the unreliability. How is that a community destroyer?
I think it goes to what you were alluding to in part 1 with trustworthiness. If I can't trust you to show up, how can I trust you with the deeper parts of me? Right? So if you tell me you're going to be there, but then you're not. And here's the deal. Can we make allowance for each other's faults?
Of course.
There's grace.
Sure.
But if there's a continual pattern on, hey, you're being unreliable with showing up, you've flaked out on me time and time again, like what that communicates is you're actually not committed to our relationship. What that like, and it doesn't just have to be a matter of showing up, but unreliability also when it comes to if I do entrust something deeper to you, and if I say, this is not public information, hey, I'm entrusting you with this information, please do not share this. and then I find out through the grapevine that you shared with 3 other people,
Mm,
and there's a continual pattern on
right.
in that, and again, if it's unreliable with trusting you at your word, that you give
Right.
me your word that you're like, nope, I'm a closed vault, and you're sharing that all over the place. Even if it's good news. So an example of this, when we were talking about moving, um, there were just a couple of people, like really good friends of ours, that we shared that news with before we even shared it to the sanctuary community and to my family as well, obviously, and Hannah's family. And we said, hey, like, can you please, like, not share this with anyone? And nobody did, which was thank you. Like, again, these were reliable people.
Right.
But I've also had an experience where we've shared some exciting news with people and they go and share it to the world. And it's just like, hey, although that's exciting news, although you weren't gossiping or slandering, it wasn't your news to share.
Right.
Like, and don't rob me of the joy of sharing that with other people. So, yeah, unreliability in the sense of honoring your word, your commitments, etc., but also honoring your word in the sense of, hey, if you tell someone you're going to not just be at this place, but be this type of person who can be trusted with valuable information, then come through on that.
Right.
So I think that that's what I meant by unreliability versus honoring our word. And here's the deal. I know the realities of life.
Sure.
I know that when it comes to honoring our word, that so often what happens is we'll give our yes to someone, and then in our mind something better comes along.
Ooh.
The social event we really wanted to be a part of.
Wow.
Or hey, this person that I've been hoping would reach out to me for the last couple of months finally did. And it happens to be at the same time and the same commitment as when I told you I would be here. And not honoring your word would be flaking out on your initial commitment to go and do what in your mind is better. But I actually believe that it's in those situations where we are given opportunities to truly honor our word.
Yeah.
Right? Where we got the long game in mind, not the short one. So short game, like short term, is, man, I want to go to what I perceive as a better commitment right now. Long game in mind is I want to be someone whose word has dignity to it, who can be trustworthy, who when I say yes to this, I'm there. Like you can trust that I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there, and I'm not going to drag my feet going as well, but I'm going to be stoked about being present with the person that I gave my initial word to. So I think that that's actually something that we've lost a lot, and something that I want to be aware of as well is we've kind of lost a dignity of can we trust our word at face value.
That's good. That's good. And I would say my experience is, first of all, like you said, there's grace. That's point number 2. We're a community of grace. And there can be grace for,
absolutely,
hey, something came up unexpected. Something changed in my schedule. We all need grace for that. That's not the problem. But like you said, if there's a pattern of kind of breaking your word, that's then it breaks trust, like you said, and it breaks the trustworthiness thing too. You know, Scripture says, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." In other words, be consistent with what you say and what you do and how you follow through with it. Again, grace for either A, I blew it. You blow it 5 times. There still might be grace, but there still needs to be accountability, or to realize, I know this wasn't your intention, but you've eroded my trust because you've not been reliable, and I can't trust you to be reliable if the pattern is you're not reliable. In that way. And usually it's with small things too. Like you said, you don't show up at all, totally unreliable. What about this? What about chronic lateness?
Are you like coming at me right now?
No.
Okay, maybe it's just conviction.
No.
I feel in my own heart.
No. Because it seems like a small thing, but it can also be a big thing.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, actually, moving back to Fairfield County and being here, because you can ask Carrie, I'm pedantic about being on time for things and punctual. In fact, Carrie will tell you, and so will my kids, that we actually know how to get around because we're so early getting places that we've got to drive around and we see all the side streets before we actually get there because we show up too early all the time. So that's a weird idiosyncrasy of the Butterfield family. But
good on you.
Good on you, mate. So so that's like a peculiar thing. However, I'll personally say, since moving back down here to Fairfield County, I have found myself becoming late, and it drives me crazy because, again, is it that big of a deal? The answer is no. But a pattern of that says, hey, I can't trust that you're going to be here, or especially in team dynamics, especially in ministry, especially like small groups, whatever that is. It's actually communicating that not only can you not trust me to say that I'll be there when I need to be, it actually subtly says my time is more important than yours. That goes back to point number one, the me monster. That my time is more important than yours in that way. Now, again, one-off situations, no big deal. But that's a really important thing. And I think that our culture has let those things erode, even being punctual, starting on time. I remember a professor that, man, he closed the door when 3 minutes after class started and you weren't coming in. And his thing was always better never than late. That's what he would say. So, so he would, I remember just in grade. And his class, you had to be present, and absences, I think you had like 5 cuts for the semester. And after that, he'd start taking points off your final grade. And I remember everyone thought he was so old school and so harsh. And he goes, welcome to the real world where your bosses will fire you if you can't be dependent on showing up on time.
Ooh, I am sweating right now just thinking about that.
He also said, your parents have sacrificed to pay for you to receive an education. And so I want to honor your parents by making sure you honor your commitment to be here in class and learn. I remember everyone just like totally hated that. But the reality is he was right.
Yep.
So small stuff. So time and things like that. How about another one? Ghosting.
Oh, dude, I'm like,
text.
You are coming for my head.
I'm coming for myself too. Lack of response in that way. Now, we live in a world that wants instant response, and if you don't respond, within 5 minutes of the text, email, DM that you give, then people are like, "What's wrong?" But there is a chronic ghosting that's taking place within our community as well. What are your thoughts about that? In the unreliability community destroyer kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot for me to work on.
Me too.
That's what I think. Hearing all of this, I'm like, I got some work to do. Hannah will always mention this to me too. Like, we have some really, really amazing people in our lives and in this community who share some of the most encouraging words via text, and it's so great. And I'm like the guy that's known for just like, I loved it when Apple came out with that feature where you can give the thumbs up or the heart or the haha or the emphasis or the question mark thing. Like
the quick reaction.
I'm all about that.
Which says, I saw this.
I'll send a little love on like, I love it. I saw it. And for me, that's responding. And Hannah's like, this person just poured their heart out. So I'll try to be like, I will write back. But what I do say is, hey, texting is a really bad mode of communication for me. I'd love to chat more about this in person, or to thank you in person for the words that you shared, etc. But what I am also not good at when that happens is sometimes I forget when I've read texts or when I've read emails, and I'm not always the best at getting back to them, and I apologize for that.
I'm the same
Sorry,
way.
Sanctuary.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have not been good at
grace.
that. I pray that my replacement will be 1,000 times better than me. But yeah, I think that sometimes I forget when I've opened things. And so literally on my to-do list today, even before we had this conversation, I have on my tasks go through texts that you've opened that you have not replied to
Good.
because of what you just mentioned, right? You know, like if somebody's trying to connect in that way, even if it's just a few sentences back, I don't want to leave them hanging in that way, because ghosting also in my generation is also a sign of I don't care about you, or I don't care about what you just said. And that's never my heart, right? But sometimes from maybe bad experiences with other people, that could be what is communicated by not saying anything.
Right. And that goes back to the insecurity pride continuum, that if I get offended so much by someone doing that to me, I might have to look at some pride level, especially if I'm in the habit of doing that too. And I've been there. I'm the same way. I struggle replying to every email that comes through, every text, group texts, that come through. My phone blows up because I'm in a group text with 14 people and everyone hits the like button, and my that there becomes a white noise. Not that, so for all of you who are in group texts like that, I love the old feature of leave the conversation. It was like, as soon as the first text comes up, I'm out. I don't even know what this group text is about, but a blanket statement. Anyways, I'm triggering people all over the place. So
you can't do that with people that have Androids, though, which is so annoying.
What's an Android?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
it's a
joking.
problem is what joking. It is.
Yeah.
But you can't leave a conversation with group chats with Android people. No, I've tried. There's some that I'm like, I want out.
What? Man, maybe it's a Bill Gates thing. No comment. Let's promote some conspiracy theories now. That's our different podcast. No, I'm just joking. But that idea of being, let your yes be yes, let your no be no, being reliable, someone who's trustworthy in that way.
One more thing about tardiness. Again, our community is amazing.
That's a funny word, by the way.
Why?
I don't know. It just sounds funny to me.
Tardiness. Our community is amazing. My largest pet peeve with our community is, guys, service starts at 5 o'clock. Not 5:50. 5 o'clock. And you know what? You know what happened, Kevin? We incorporated games into the beginning of our service because we have fun and we want to live out that value. So
you want people to connect.
And I want people to connect.
Right.
And people saw that as service light, or I can miss out on that. So people would intentionally know, all right, I'll show up 25, 30 minutes late. I'll miss the games and maybe the first worship song or first set, and I'll come in for the message because that's really what matters. So these last couple of weeks, I intentionally took games out so that people are walking into the end of the message. But here's the deal as well. If I can't, this is going back to different levels of communication. If I can't have fun with you, why would I trust to have deeper conversations with you?
Oh.
If I can't even trust you to have a good time together, why am I going to talk about things that are deeper and more meaningful when I'm like, I don't even know if I could trust you with a good time. So that was, I do that sometimes. I was like, let's not do games tonight. And some of it too is like, all right, we want to keep things fresh.
Sure.
But part of it too is show up at 5. Hey, be a part of the buzz before service. And like,
how about show up at 4:45 to greet people on their way in?
Well, that would just be a move of God.
There's parting the Red Sea, and then there's showing up early without being scheduled.
Oh, wow.
I sent someone a text about that, and they never got back to me. No, I'm just joking. Just joking.
I'm kidding.
Yes,
okay.
Sort of.
You're putting me on blast now.
Sorry, not sorry. No, I'm just joking.
Community, we love you, but room for improvement.
Word. Okay. So, we've got to work on our being reliable because it helps build trust. We've all brought up a whole bunch of negative stuff, but we know people that we can count on. We know people that really what it comes is, we use the word trustworthiness. The other one is just faithful. Faithful. It's a parable of talents, Matthew 25. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things, the small stuff. Now you can be entrusted with more. Can I tell a story?
Yes.
Okay, so back in the day, I was working with Sanctuary, and we use this tool called StrengthsFinder, which and we know.
Use it.
We use it a lot. Gallup StrengthsFinder. It's a really powerful tool for those who don't like to be ultra defined by things and pigeonholed and things. You'll be okay. But it's a really helpful tool at helping discover what God has wired us with, that are strengths to be used. Anyways, back in the day, I could see everybody's strength scores on all 34 strength themes from 1 to 100. And I remember doing this with a group of like 20 or 30 sanctuarians, people from Sanctuary, key leaders. And I got this score from this one person that was coming. And their top 5 scores were like at 80 and 90%.
Cool.
In other words, like 10 talent capacity kind of person, right? From their strengths, really strong strengths. Sorry for that. But I was like, in the stack of people, this person went to the top. I'm like, this is a leader I need to develop. Has high capacity for growth and impact, right? And there was another person who, like, their top strength was at like 51%. And then it just went down from there. And I'm going to be honest, this is confession time. It went to this person kind of went to the bottom of the pile. And the Lord spoke to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, basically, he had those two score sheets in front of him. And you said, you've just minimized a person based on their scores of capacity and potential. And then he said, that person that you put just in the bottom of the pile is one of the most faithful people in your ministry. The person that has the highest scores was one of the most flaky people we had in our ministry. Unreliable, didn't show up, wouldn't follow through on their word, didn't get really involved, would always stay on the fringes of things. When it was convenient, would be there, would show up late. And the Lord basically said, I can do more with his faithfulness than with her capacity and potential. And it was like, and it was also the Lord saying to me, like, focus on faithfulness, because faithfulness will equal fruitfulness more than just potential. And so I remember Erwin Raphael McManus saying this to me. One of our, we have in common an admiration for him.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
With that, he said, hey, if you're 22 and someone says you have a lot of potential, you should be encouraged. If you're 35 and someone says you have a lot of potential and you haven't lived up to it yet, you should be like convicted. If you're 55 and someone's saying they have a lot of potential, you should be really just saddened, because you've wasted what God has given you in lack of faithfulness rather than developing your potential. And so I think that faithful factor is a huge community builder, and one that we've seen, right? We've got people that are serving regularly, that are regularly involved,
Yep.
even if they don't have official duties. The fact that they show up, they're there, they encourage people, they're building community in formal and informal ways just by their presence and their faithfulness to be there week after week, time after time, will yield so much fruit for the kingdom and build community in a regular way.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, people.
Yeah.
Last one. It was about gossip and slander. That's a destroyer. Versus gratitude and celebration.
All right. Walk us through it.
I mean, this one is fairly self-explanatory. One of my go-to talks is all about honor, and
we choose honor.
Value we choose honor is one that resonates with me a lot, because I've seen the power of words on both sides. Yeah. Right. And just reminded of that verse: the power of death and life is in the tongue, and those who love it will reap its rewards. I took it a step further and said the power of death and life is in the thumbs.
Word.
And those who love it will reap the rewards, or the opposite. Yeah, so that was more so just about like, hey, let's focus on thankfulness, especially when it comes to um, texts or DMs, etc. Again, like
Posting.
posting, yeah, what you're posting, the caption that you're posting, etc. You should really think a lot before what you post. A lot. And again, this is also coming from learned experience, for better or for worse. When I've reacted too quickly to a situation where my emotions were high, so my judgment was low, and I've posted things out of a place of hurt that have hurt more people, because hurting people hurt people.
Yeah.
And what's breaking my heart right now, again, it's happening in our world. Cool. I expect the world to operate and function that way. But what's breaking my heart is that in our faith circles, that there are people who are putting others on blast, especially people that, I don't know a better way to put it, but maybe some of the pioneers, in the sense of people that are on the front lines of our faith and ministry, that probably have a larger platform or a bigger public platform, and people are coming against them and building their platform off of coming against those people,
Right.
and for slandering those people. And it's really discouraging, man.
It is.
Even again, there are people who I've been disappointed by in the last few years.
And we did a whole podcast on what happens when someone
Episode number 1.
When someone blows it,
Right.
someone lets us down, someone makes a mistake. How do we handle that? Someone falls.
Right. So that was all about covering people instead of like uncovering shame and adding to destructive noise. If you're hurt, take that up with God. The digital world doesn't need more hurting people spewing more hurtful things.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's like, and whether it's, I don't care what platform it's on, if it's on an anonymous blogger site, or, on any of the many social media platforms that Facebook now owns, or whatever it is, what I've seen destroy this community and destroy people from trusting people in this community is when we've partaken in that. So we need to come against that as Christians and say, that's not who we are.
Yeah.
That's not who we are in this place. And again, yes, it's discouraging to look at other churches that do that and that have built a platform off of blasting other people, right? But I'm saying, let's focus on what we do have here and who we are here, and say, here at Black Rock Church, here at Sanctuary, we don't do that.
Yeah.
That is not who we are.
Publicly and privately.
Correct. Well, and especially the reason why, the power of the thumbs thing, why I brought that up, is because I've just seen people say things about others and to others that I'm like, I know if you two were face to face right now, you would never say that. You would never say, like, I know you. Hey, I've served alongside you for years. And you're talking about a person who's also served alongside you for years in such a disrespectful and dishonoring way. I'm like, I know if you two were in the same room together, you would not be saying it with that tone. You would not be saying these things. So, yeah, anyway, we need to come against, gossip, but also slander. Like, again, we want to find the best. So even with people, and I'm going to bring it back to those that have built a bigger public ministry platform, even in things like moral failure or untrustworthy ministry dealings, whatever, I'm still trying to find things that I can be thankful for. You know, previous to their mess up. Hey, there are things that this person did that have built my personal relationship with God and helped me become the man who I am today. I'm thankful for that. Hey, even in these failings, I'm thankful for the way that, again, like, I'm always trying to find things to be grateful for about that person, because the principle was it's really hard to dislike someone that you're thankful for. It's really tough to slander someone that you find ways to be grateful for and assume the best about. So that was really the heart behind that point, was just like, hey, we again, we want to come against certain things so that we can protect what's precious here.
Right.
To protect each other and recognize and fall back on what do we have in common. We have Jesus in common, and the core of Jesus is grace and forgiveness. The core of Jesus is loving those who have hurt you. And again, we'll talk about that more Sunday, but yeah. Anyway, some thoughts that you had on that before we have to wrap things up.
Well, to go back to, so the negative of gossip, slander, whatever you want to look at that. And also often we think that that's sharing things that aren't true. Slander can actually be sharing things that are true, but in a way that your heart intention is that others will think less of that person when they're hearing that information. We put that even in sometimes, hey, you need to pray for so-and-so.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Because they did X, Y, and Z, which we put it in churchy language, but really is I'm trying to share information about this person that the net result is you will think less of them. Now, are there times when there's accountability? Are there times when we are concerned about people? Of course.
Sure.
How you share it, but your heart motivation is the check on that one. And some of our, and this isn't a cancel culture thing. This isn't a real thing. Probably some of the wisest things I ever said were the things I didn't say and deleted. Because
that's a bar.
My heart, and often between the Holy Spirit and someone with wisdom like Carrie, who says, why are you sending that? Why are you responding? Are you responding with wisdom or in reaction? Same thing Carrie will say, like, would you say that to that person? If you would, why don't you call them up instead of posting it on Facebook or Instagram? Why don't you call them and say, hey, I'm really concerned about you. You mentioned this. Can I ask you a follow-up question rather than just reacting? Can we sit down and talk through this a little bit in that way? That builds community. And, listen, we've all blown it. We really have. I know I have. I know I haven't responded really well at times, or have reacted rather than responding purposefully. But I think, like you said, going back to the gratitude and the Thanksgiving thing, today's verse in YouVersion was, let your conversation be seasoned with grace so that you'll be prepared always to give an answer.
Mm-hmm.
If we're seasoning all of our conversation with grace, then whatever the question they're asking, whether it's a deep and powerful one about our faith, or it's just a simple question about our perspective and opinions on common things in our life, current events, divisive things, that even our answers are seasoned in grace. And in a time, in a place, not only in our world, but in our own community, when we need to be able to give truthful answers with love and grace that will help build community, even in the points of disagreement, is a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I was thinking the other day, I'm really, not that we've always gotten this right, because we haven't, but I was thinking about some of our high school leaders that in our small groups. And I'm thinking about the parents, because we often have 2 to 3 or 4 people in each of our small groups, right? And I was thinking last night about some of our small groups for high school. And I know one person in that's leading that small group with another, they're partners with leading it. They are politically at polar opposite spectrums. They are on several different ways. Even they're racially diverse. Their views on things are so diverse. but they come together to serve these kids and to serve Jesus. And I'm like, they're not letting those other issues that are dividing our world divide their small groups and divide their serving of students together. And they're choosing, even when they are in disagreement about those things, that we do this with thankfulness and they speak well of each other. Can I tell you that's like so refreshing. And I know it makes the heart of God glad.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can shy away from certain things. It doesn't mean that we can't have confrontation in a healthy way, but we're going to do it with thanksgiving, publicly and privately. And what a great model for our world, that even in disagreement, we can honor each other and be thankful for each other in that way, that we choose to bless rather than build down, tear down. In Ephesians, as it says, only say what is helpful for building others up according to their needs.
Mm-hmm.
It is always easier for me to gossip, slander, be sarcastic, even in humor, to pull someone down, than it is to intentionally use words to build them up according to their needs. But those are the things that build life and community. I'm going to ask you a practical question in a second, but the reality is when people, we know when we're around people that carry gratitude in their heart because it comes out of their mouth. Those people are attractive.
Yep.
Those people are contagious. Those people are like magnets that we're drawn to them.
Yep.
Those people are gatherers of people rather than dividers and scatterers. And I can tell you that when you're around people that in small little cutting ways always have the jibe, they're always saying different things. Man, it's repelling after a time.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa Van Edwards has this thing that she talks about. It's called spontaneous trait transference. And it's this. It's if I'm speaking negatively about a people all the time, then the people who are listening to me start to associate me with those negative things that I'm talking about to other people subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm blasting people all the time, oh, this person's this and this person does that, and I hate when they do this, and this is really dumb, they're just stupid and things like that. You hear that, you start to associate me with those negative words that I'm spewing out over other people. And the net result is that gossip and slander actually brings division to the people that you're spewing it on or about too. And so that just kills community too, because who the heck wants to hang out with a bunch of bitter people who gossip and slander? And if they're talking about that person that way, how are they talking about me when I'm not around?
Yep.
And that goes back to unreliability and trust and so on. Rob, can you think of a couple practical things we can do this week, even today, to be building community through gracious conversation versus unreliability and gossip and slander?
Yeah, one, like me, get back to your texts. Here's a really practical one, and I probably won't get to all of them today because I've cut some work out for myself. But get back to people. Be true to your word. I think that's one. And then the other is when you're getting back and as you're talking with people, if you can think of a way that you can just say thank you to someone. One of the things I love saying is the kindest words a person should ever receive should not be at their funeral. It should be while they're still alive. So even if you're just telling someone, hey, thank you. I'm glad you're alive. My life is better because you're in it.
Yeah.
Like even if it's just that simple, but that meaningful, impart those words to someone today.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Send us out with a blessing.
Yes. Bless you, Sanctuary, to continue to rep God well, both for you personally, but for our community corporately. I bless you to do that well, to love others well, to grow in your grace and grow in your trustworthiness these days ahead. Love you so much. Thanks again for joining us in this podcast. We'll see you soon.
Amen.
chase the sunrise,